Okay, hello everybody. This video is just going to hopefully go through some of the equipment that I use. My basses, my pedal board. I'll touch briefly on any kind of software wizardry that I might do. That's definitely not the right word to use. I'm no wizard when it comes to audio engineering. So I'm going to start with my Warwick Corvette bass. Absolutely love this thing. I've had it for about 10 years now. This would be my desert island bass. If I could only have one bass the rest of my life, I would definitely keep hold of this one. Love the feel of the neck. Really versatile in terms of sounds. And yeah, I love it. I'll get the P bass out as well a bit later on. But in terms of what the Warwick sounds like all on its own, we have this. Sounds like a completely unprocessed bass. So with the pedal board, I'm going to start at the end because that's where my preamp and cab sim are, and that's found in the SansAmp VT Bass DI, which is a great little pedal. So we'll engage that and sort of see how that affects the sound. It starts to sound a little bit more like we're playing through an amp now. I've got a little pedal board camera here. I don't know how clearly you'll be able to see the controls on each pedal, but I've got a slight boost on the bass, a slight cut on the treble. Middle's pretty much in the middle. Drive is at about 3 o'clock. No, sorry, 9 o'clock. The way I'm looking at it, it looks like it's at 12 o'clock, but it's on its side, so that is 9 o'clock. The character knob on the VT Bass DI is kind of like a tone control. I mean, that's not how they describe it in the manual. They talk about how you turn it to the left and it sounds a bit more like this Ampeg amp, and you turn it to the right and it sounds a bit more like that Ampeg amp. For all intents and purposes, I just view it as a tone control. Turn it to the left, it gets darker. Turn it to the right, it gets brighter. So mine's a little bit over to the left there, maybe at about 10 o'clock. So going back to the front of the pedal board chain now, I start with the Boss TU3 tuner. Does what it says on the tin. It's a tuner. And then I go into the MXR bass compressor. I'm not the most clued up person when it comes to compression. Probably like a lot of bass players out there. A couple of years ago when I was starting to look to expand my pedal board collection, I looked at various posts online and all of them say you need a compressor. So I was like, right, I'm going to get a compressor. And this one seemed to get pretty good reviews in lots of places. And I really like the fact that it has the visual gain reduction meter, because as a bit of a noob, that's quite helpful to kind of see what's happening if you can't necessarily hear it, if you're not quite tuned into hearing compression yet. I should probably fiddle with that one more when I'm changing basses or playing at different venues or different styles of music. But to be honest, it's a set it and forget it pedal for me, and it's always on. I've played around with different parts of my signal chain over the years. It's been used as a limiter. I put it on like maximum compression ratio and put it near the end. But right now I've got it on the lowest compression ratio and it's at the front. So let's add that one into the mix and see how that sounds. So after the bass compressor, we go into the Boss line selector. And this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. Basically, I've got one channel that goes through the Morley dual bass wah and the Proco Rat 2. Then the other channel goes through the MXR Bass Octave Deluxe and the Boss ODB3. So the reason for splitting the signal into two directions there is the distortion pedal sucks all of the low end out. So the other channel is to try and compensate for that. So if I show you what I mean by the distortion pedal taking away all of the low end, let's just have a listen to that. So no distortion. Yeah, the Rat sucks away the distortion, which as a bass player sucks. So that's what the other channel is for. So if I just show you that other channel. So I'm actually using the Boss ODB3 as a clean bass boost. I've got the distortion controls all the way off, and then there's a 2-band EQ on it, a high and a low. The high is maybe cut just slightly from 12 o'clock, and then the low is boosted by just a small amount, maybe to about 2 o'clock. I've got no idea what frequency it's boosting, but it saved me having to go out and buy an EQ pedal to do this, to serve this function. But I am thinking I might go out and have a look at an EQ pedal just to maybe give me a bit more control over the bass boost in this whole signal path. So the way that this bass boost sounds would be like this. More bass, much better. So when I combine both of those two, I can have a distorted bass tone that has low end. Let's hear that. And then I play around with different levels of distortion on the Rat and the filter control to kind of change how that distortion sounds. So distortion is relatively low at the minute. I'll just progressively increase it so you can see what that sounds like. It starts off quite low and gritty, and it just gets progressively more fuzzy the higher you turn the knob. So it's quite a good pedal, really. It's almost distortion and fuzz in one pedal, almost. So yeah, I'll have a little play with that distortion control. That one can get pretty fuzzy, which is cool. The filter knob I sometimes use as almost just like an additional tone control. So obviously you've got controls on your instrument and your amp, but sometimes I just kneel down and fiddle with the filter knob on the Rat just to change my sound. So it's backwards to a normal tone control. So to the right makes it more dark, to the left makes it more bright. Mine normally sits somewhere to the right of 12 o'clock. So here, in that setting, it sounds like this. And then as you take it to the right, a bit darker. And to the left, a bit brighter. Like I said, I like it somewhere just to the right of central. And then, of course, we have the wah in the same channel of the line selector as the Rat. So I go wah, then distortion. Loads of people argue about what order you should put those two pedals in, but this is the way I like it. And I love all those sort of distorted wah tones that you get from Tim Comerford, Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave. and this order for me seems to work. So yeah, the dual bass wah, it's massive. It's a big pedal. One of the drawbacks. I used to have the Dunlop Crybaby, is it called the 105Q bass wah, the white one? But the spring on it broke twice. So I was like, I'm not going to get one of those again. So the Morley one is an optical wah rather than the sort of mechanical pop mechanism on the Dunlop one. And I really like it. It's got two modes. It's got this little funk wah switch. I normally leave it engaged just because I feel it's a bit thin without it. So I'll show you what I mean. So without it. I feel like at the full depression of the wah, it gets a little bit kind of shrill and harsh, whereas with it engaged, it's a bit more pleasant to my ears. That's always good fun. I don't often use the wah as a clean wah. I could do if I turn the rat off. Get a bit funky. Not typically the kind of stuff I tend to play, but it's there for that purpose if needed. So that's the wah and the rat. Then in the other side we've got the bass boost from the overdrive pedal. Before the overdrive pedal, in that other chain of the line selector, I've got the Bass Octave Deluxe by AMXR. Doesn't get used a whole lot. Big note, last note of a song. Sometimes use it for that when playing live. Sometimes comes in handy if there's like a short part in a song that you would need a 5-string for. I've never owned a 5-string. I'd quite like to own one, but this kind of gets you out of a little bit of a tricky situation sometimes. Obviously, if you're hammering away at those really low notes the whole song, just get a 5-string. But if there's only like a short passage of notes, this can work out quite nicely. So just show you what that sounds like. Bit of octave and wah. Lots of silly noises. So yeah, tuner, compressor, line selector, then it goes in those two directions. It comes out of the line selector and goes into the TC Electronics Thunderstorm flanger. I really like, actually. It's quite an affordable flanger. It's the only one I've ever played through. For a long time I had a Boss, I think it's called the CEB3, the Boss bass chorus pedal. And the reason I bought the chorus pedal years ago, it might have even have been pre-YouTube or early days of YouTube, there was just a video called like Bass Solo, and it was, found out later, it was Jason Newsted doing a bass solo at the Cunning Stunts Metallica live concert DVD. And I just loved that sound, and for a long time I thought it was a chorus, and then I think I'd seen some posts in sort of more recent years suggesting that actually that was a flanger. So I was like, oh, okay, let's try that. Because I was never that satisfied with what I got out of the chorus pedal. I'd actually, on a few occasions, kicked it on in a gig intentionally, forgotten to turn it off, and not noticed that it was still on. So I was just like, well, why is it on my board if it's on and I can't tell it's on? I probably want something different. So I sold that, and I'm really happy with the flanger as a replacement. You can fiddle around with flangers, I think, and get them to sound, like an airplane whooshing flanger. I think some people can get them to sound a bit like a phaser. I try to get it to sound slightly like a chorus. It's not exactly like that, but yeah, it's a really cool little modulation pedal. So let's hear what that sounds like. It sounds pretty cool with distortion in the mix, because I think the flanger really kind of picks out those overtones and harmonics from a distorted tone. So let's hear that. So if you want the really over-exaggerated airplane whooshy noise, you can do that. Let's have a go at that. It sounds funky and cool and silly, but in a gig setting, I'm never going to use it like that. I normally use it more like this. Something like that. My favourite use of the flanger is actually with a pick. If I can find my pick, there we go. On a clean setting, playing like arpeggiated chords, basically that kind of Jason Newsted, Cunning Stunts, bass solo kind of vibe. Just going to pan slightly to the neck pickup. Cool sound, I think. It also flange, I think, works really well for some of those tool bass parts. That's the flanger. I think that's basically the whole board. Let's grab the P bass just so you can know how that sounds through all of this. This is tone all the way up. So I've got the Geezer Butler EMG pickups in this, and I find them really bright. So tone all the way up, I'm not a big fan of. I'll show you tone all the way off as a comparison. go somewhere in the middle or on the darker side of the middle. Let's get a bit of pick playing in. In terms of picks, if anyone cares, I've changed what pick I've used loads over the years. I used to play with things on the thicker side compared to what I use now. You can definitely go thicker though. I used to use like a 1.14. I used the Tortex 1.14. No, not Tortex. Ultex 1.14 triangle ones quite a while. And I've just been going thinner and thinner and thinner. So now I use, I don't know why you can see that. It's a Dunlop Tortex 0.73mm Jazz 3. So I quite like the shape of a Jazz 3, like playing on electric guitars, having that sharper point. And I found that on a bass, going on a lighter pick, it's probably something to do with the fact that the strings are thicker, the tension of the strings compared to guitar, but I play with a thinner pick on bass than I do on an electric guitar. So whereas on a guitar I might use like a 1mm pick. I go 0.73 on bass. I just find it's easier to, if you're trying to play faster, I just find it's a lot easier to play with a thinner pick, and you also get a slightly brighter sound, which I quite like as well. But also, if you're literally just playing what I like to call rhythm guitar on bass, you're literally just down picking root notes or alternate picking root notes. I just feel like it's much more fluid when you've got a loose pick in your grip. I think that is basically it. So, in terms of what happens after my pedal board, just take a XLR out into my interface, and I'm now using a Motu M2, which I've been really pleased with. That's going into Cubase, Cubase 10, I think. I've got the cheapest one because I'm no audio engineer. I only need the basic features. And then with a lot of the bass covers that I do, it's for a long time literally just been my pedal board, and then I might, if needed, throw in an EQ, a bit of EQ tweaking. I use a TDR Nova active EQ plugin. It's a free one, so boosting and cutting various frequencies or attenuating specific frequencies when they cross a specific threshold. I find that's quite a useful one. I might use a gate if it's required. I might use a saturation knob, again a free saturation knob plugin. But yeah, that is my I guess rig rundown for playing live. I just play in a rock covers band, just in little pubs and stuff. So it's been super reliable. I just use a Fender Rumble 100. It's like the old version though, with the red flashy lights at the bottom. I'll see if I can maybe throw a picture up of it into the video. And then when I was playing with a different band that was playing slightly bigger stages, I invested in a Ampeg SVT3 Pro, and then got a few years later upgraded to what is it? The SVT HLF 4x10 cab. But for the little pub gigs and stuff I do, it's just too big and I don't need that level of volume. But it's sitting somewhere, gathering dust. Hopefully I'll get to take it out and use it a bit more often. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions about any of the pedalboard stuff, any of the instruments, or Cubase shenanigans, drop a comment below. And yeah, thanks for watching if you made it this far.